Hello, my name is Miss Emily and welcome to the Onslow County Museum. Today we are going to be talking about the moon, and after we talk a little bit about the moon, then we're going to be doing our crescent button moon craft. So let's get started. Alright, so today we're talking about the moon. So our moon is a very rocky place and it's full of craters. These craters are cup-shaped divots or holes on the surface of the moon. So when we look up into the sky and we look at the moon, we kind of see these bumps and lumps on the surface of the moon. And what some people would say is the face of the moon. So these lumps and bumps are actually craters, these cup-shaped holes that are on the surface of the moon. And these craters were formed or created by asteroids and meteorites that have crashed into the surface of the moon. So our atmosphere, Earth's atmosphere, has a protection essentially for these asteroids and meteorites. So instead of asteroids and meteorites crashing into our surface, onto our Earth, this atmosphere protects it, so they burn up before ever reaching our surface. Whereas the moon doesn't have that protection. So when asteroids and meteorites come into contact with it, it's going to create these craters. So that's how and why we see those bumps and lumps on the surface of the moon. So as the moon orbits or circles around the Earth, and Earth itself is also circling, and the reason why that happens is because each planetary body has an axis or a point of which itself rotates. So it's actually spinning. So the moon is spinning on its axis or its point. So think about like your finger and then a basketball sitting on top of your finger, right? And you spin it on top of your finger. So that's the axis point, and all of these planetary bodies are kind of rotating on that axis point. So here we have Earth that's also rotating on its axis point, and we also have the moon, right, which is like a satellite to Earth. And as our two planetary bodies, Earth and the moon, are rotating on its axis point, the moon is also circling or orbiting around the Earth. Now, what's interesting about this is that these two planetary bodies, the moon and the Earth, are actually rotating or spinning at the same rate, the same time. So for us, we only ever see the same side of the moon. We never see the dark side of the moon. Now, instead of calling it the dark side, a more accurate name would be far side of the moon, because the other side of the moon, the far side of the moon, actually sees the same amount of light as the side that we always see. So it's equal light on each side of the moon. So the moon is the only other planetary body that humans have been. So here we are on Earth, and the moon is the only other place that humans have explored or been to in space, right, or in outer space. So what's interesting about that is our last mission to the moon, which was Apollo 11, took place in July of 1969. But NASA is now on the way to try to make it back to the moon, and that next mission is called Artemis. So the Artemis mission is all about getting the first woman on the moon and the next man. While they're there, the astronauts are going to explore the surface of the moon and see what kind of natural resources the moon might have in order for us to have longer exploration time up there on the moon. So this is a test for how well humans can hang out on the moon or another planetary body before we try and make it to Mars. Pretty neat. All right, so now onto our activity or our craft for the day. So we are going to be doing the crescent moon button craft. So some of the things that you will need to do this: you're going to need your crescent moon template along with pencil, scissors, contact paper, and just a piece of black construction paper. First step is to cut out your crescent moon. Okay, so you can see I've already cut it out here. And then you're going to take your black construction paper and your crescent moon and you're just going to trace out the shape of the crescent moon onto your black construction paper. After you do that, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut out the moon. So you don't want to cut out the moon like this. You actually want to go in and cut out the inside of the moon. So you still have that black construction paper with just an empty hole where the crescent moon was. So after you do that, you should have some buttons, and you're going to take your sheet of contact paper and lay over your black construction paper that you cut out the crescent moon. You're going to lay that flat, and then you're going to take your buttons and start pushing down onto the crescent moon contact paper. You can see you want to press down that flat side of the button. You want to leave the post sticking up. So here's a better one so you can see the flat side of the button. We're going to press it down into our contact paper. And they're not going to stick, automatically. And that's okay, because you're going to have a second sheet of contact paper. And what you're going to do, you're going to take off that second sheet of contact paper, and you're just going to lay it on top of your buttons that you've already done. So I like to just kind of stick them on my buttons first. And since they're post, so the sticky up end of the button, it's not going to lay completely flat, which is fine. You don't need to necessarily worry about that. You just want to make sure that your contact paper is sticking to the button, so that way when you actually cut around, your buttons aren't going to fall out. So you just want to kind of make sure your contact paper is sticking and that your buttons are secure, which is not bad. So when you actually flip it around the other side, they look nice and pretty. You don't see any of the little bumps and lumps. And then you can take your scissors, and if you would like, just cut off this excess of contact paper. You can go in and actually cut off closer to the buttons. Whatever you would like to do, it's up to you. And then you'll get a beautiful crescent moon, and you can stick these in your window, and that light coming through will look beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Family Fun Friday. Be sure to tune in for next Friday. We're going to be talking about galaxies, so it's going to be really, really fun. Be sure to check out our website for more virtual programming. Thank you so much.